Hey everyone, and welcome to the Bits and Bibles podcast. I'm your host, Zachariah Collins, and this is episode 3, Online Uniformity. You know, I was reading the dictionary that I like to read, which is the Webster's 1828, and I looked up the word uniformity, because I was really trying to figure out a good title for this episode, and realized that this word and this concept of online uniformity really explained the concept I want to explain to you today well. You see, uniformity, the definition of uniformity according to Webster's 1828, is resemblance to itself at all times, even tenor, as in uniformity of design in a poem. That's definition 1. Number 2 is consistency, sameness, as in uniformity of a man's opinion. Number 3 is conformity to a pattern or rule, resemblance, or agreement, as in uniformity of different churches and ceremonies or rites, similitude between the parts of a whole, as the uniformity of sides in a regular figure, continued or unvaried sameness or likeness. And then it has one last little thing here. Uniformity must tire at last, though it is a uniformity of excellence. You know, I was looking at those different things, and if you've ever looked at any large brand online, and when I say brand, I kind of mean that in a very loose sense of the word, but if you look at any large, especially, organization online, you'll notice something. And I'll pick on, who can I pick on for this one? I'll pick on Facebook for this one. When you go online, if you just type into a Google search or Brave search or Bing search, whatever you use, if you type in Facebook, not Facebook.com, just Facebook, you will probably first get Facebook.com. And their actual, first you'll probably get their landing page to, where they want you to sign up and sign in. After that, you'll probably be greeted by, Facebook's Facebook page, where they have their own page on their site for announcements and updates and communication with their customers and people. And then from there, you're going to start finding things like Facebook's Twitter page, which, I always find a little funny because you have Twitter's Facebook page as well. Just those places where companies cross platforms. You might find you're going to find different sites for them. If you go into the email, into the photo side, you'll start under images. You'll probably start finding, photos of their brands and their logos and stuff like that. But the thing you start noticing is that you see, if you go to any of those pages, you start noticing that all of them follow a level of uniformity. If you go to any page that Facebook hosts about their services and their company, it's going to have the same logos, the same colors, the same text styles, the same text styles. It's just everything. Everything is going to have a layer of uniformity to it. And that is very important when you work in an organization. Is, you would expect brand uniformity in, let's say, if you had company shirts, that you wanted your employees to wear, or uniforms that you wanted people to wear, you would have that uniformity. One good example I could give is, my dad drives for UPS, and he's got a uniform, and UPS has their guys wear a uniform. Why? It's brand recognition, uniformity. It's that sameness. The brown truck and the guy in the brown uniform, and that's become part of their thing. What can brown do for you? You know what I mean? There's a uniformity across the board, across their entire brand. Walmart, Walmart, I don't know if they still do this as much. I guess I really don't pay attention when I go shopping in there, but you'll see where they have, they would have their people wearing the blue vests and things like that. Again, brand uniformity. But it's not just important to have uniformity in the physical, you have to have it in the digital as well. For example, if you look for me, for example, a lot of places online, I go by the handle Zachariah Collins, but I spell it ZAKERIACOLLINS. Now, I've noticed, and it wasn't fully on purpose originally, but it's become that way now, is that if you type in that exact handle into Google, you will more than likely find me, and I pretty much fill up the entire first page by myself. Now, thankfully, I don't really have anyone competing with me for that handle or trying to do an alternate of that handle, but I'm sure eventually that could happen and would happen if I gained some level of relevance that people felt was worth copying. And so as I started, looking at what to do about this topic, I realized that, this is something we need to discuss. And let's go over some of the things you would want to control as part of online uniformity. You have different avenues of ways people can learn about your company. First is social media usernames. Most people are on at least one social media platform, whether it is whether you're talking some of the old long-time players like Facebook and Twitter, maybe some of the new ones like Rumble or MeWe, wherever you're at, Parler, for example, maybe that's another one that's had a lot of attention around it. Whatever platforms you're on, and whatever platforms are out there, you want to have control of your space on there. But not only that, you want to not only have a page, you want to have a consistency on how people can find you. For example, with this podcast, I've made a point that the Facebook page, the Twitter, the bio link, the Anchor, everything has bits and Bibles in it. Even if I have to use some other little piece of it, like with the bio link, I think it's bio.links/bits and Bibles. But either way, it has that uniformity of the bits and Bibles. So if I tell somebody, hey, I run a podcast and I do podcasting a little bit, and they ask me, well, how can I find you? I tell them, go to Google and search as one word, bits and Bibles, and then they could find me, kind of a thing. And as maybe I put out more content there, its recognition would grow online. So it's very important to control that across the board. So if you create, we'll just call it First Church, right? We'll just use that for example. If you created First Church, right, you would want to have facebook.com/First Church, or at First Church. If you're on Twitter, at First Church. If you're on TikTok, at First Church. Whatever platforms you're on, you want to keep that uniformity going. And then on all those sites, you want to have the same logos, the same colors, etc. Now, I'm not going to go into that super deep on this episode. I want to do some different episodes where I break down each one of these pieces I'm listing off, but this is just kind of a high level. And if you don't have that already, I would strongly suggest, even before I come out with the next episode, start looking at it for yourself and getting control. Pick a username you like and get control of it, and we'll discuss that here in a little bit more. The next thing is domain name. That is one of the most, and I probably should have made this first. This is one of the most key things you can hold online, because it is your website. And if you can, and one thing that's really handy, if you can make your YouTube and your website if you can make your social media usernames and your domain name the same thing, that's great. So for example, let's pretend we have this fictitious First Church, right? And you have, at First Church on Facebook, for example, or on Twitter. You would want to try to see if you can get firstchurch.com. Now, I'm imagining right now, I haven't looked it up, I imagine that is probably already been taken, but you get what I'm saying. Like, if people know that they can find you by just putting in firstchurch.com, and then they can find you on their favorite social media by going to @firstchurch, all of a sudden now people are just able to find you wherever you go, and that brand recognition grows. Again, Walmart, walmart.com, @Walmart, same thing. Google My Business pages. So a lot of us know it more as Google Reviews. That is a very important thing to control. Right now, Google Reviews is probably the biggest player in the review space for companies. And later on here in this episode, and then later on in probably a separate episode, I'm going to go more deep into that. But that is a space you, again, want to control. Even if, let's say, for example, if you're running Office 365, set up a Gmail real quick. Go through the process of registering your company with Google My Business. Again, literally just Google how to set up Google My Business, and they'll walk you through the steps. They want people to do this, so they'll walk you through the steps. There's a Bing My Business page, so it doesn't. Now, I think we all can just kind of tell Bing does not collect the same traffic Google does. I'm sure there's Microsoft employees that don't appreciate me saying that, but it's it's in a reality that Bing may not, but it's still a good space to control. That doesn't mean you shouldn't control that and have your business page for Bing, because again, it's another space and another avenue for people to find you, that you can make sure that your recognition across the board looks clean, and looks concise. And again, back to uniformity. Uniformity, after reading those definitions, to me is summed up with clean, concise, and the same. So you want to control that. The other thing is any other company review portals. Have an account on there. For an example, have a LinkedIn. Have maybe a Yelp account. Things like that. Set up, start looking into that and set up those accounts and start controlling those spaces and making sure you have somewhere you can communicate and give people a front door to lead back to wherever you want them to go, whether it's you want them to go back to your website, whether it's you want them to go to your Facebook, wherever becomes your central hub. And that's important too. Decide what your central hub is. If you're always trying to direct people to your Facebook, then maybe have your other social medias and other review sites link back to your Facebook. More commonly, most people do it to their website. So in that case, do it to your website. But however you do it, having that place that you pick as your central hub for everything to land to is important. So take time to look at that as well. A couple of things to think about though. So now we're going to dig a little bit more. In this age of technology and communication, social media platforms have given your nonprofit the ability to connect and socialize with your supporters on a more personal level, and really on a one-to-one level from anywhere in the world. As people get to know your brand, it is important to make it easy for them to find anything connected to you, going back to uniformity. Here's my suggestion on how to get a good social media username figured out. Grab your really creative people, and probably your non-creative people. Who knows, they might come up with it too, but grab your team. Sit down and have people brainstorm a couple of different usernames. Again, try to get as close as you can to your company name. Like I was giving the First Church example. If you have First Church, the organization, try to get the @First Church and the domain First Church. Keep that going. If you can't, get as close as you can. My suggestion is always keep it as close to your company name as possible. Whether it's an acronym of your company name, or if you have a really long company, if you have a shorter company name, maybe the full name of it. If you have a longer company name, maybe trying to get the acronym might be better. However you work it out, try to keep it close and uniform to the name of your organization. Whether it's your company, your nonprofit, your ministry, try to keep it close. Next thing I would do, open a web browser. So find a couple of usernames that you like, open a web browser, and go to your Google or Bing search, and I'll include Bing there, so Microsoft fans don't get mad at me. Go to your search platform of your choice, and just do the @ symbol that most of us know from our emails. Your name @ your email domain.com. Do the @ symbol, put in that username, hit enter, and see what happens. You might be surprised to find out A, somebody beat you to the punch, or B, nobody's ever touched it. For example, with my handle for both the Zachariah Collins one and the Bits and Bibles, nobody had touched it, so they were wide open. But there's stuff I've tried to work on. I've found people have already beat me to the punch on that. So then I have to get creative and figure out another username. That's why I say try to brainstorm a few of them that you really like, and then go online and search for them. Now, if you find one that is available that nobody's using, try to see if you can find it available on multiple platforms. So again, you don't have different ones for different platforms. Like, if you can avoid it, don't have different usernames for Twitter and for Facebook and for TikTok and for whatever else. Uniformity again. And then go ahead, and if you haven't set up your social media pages, start looking up how to set up your Facebook business page, your Twitter business account, I think TikTok has business accounts. Yeah, I think they do. Your Twitter business account, etc., or your TikTok business account, maybe your LinkedIn, obviously LinkedIn and some of your other ones. Set them up and start making that username the username you request for all those. Because then you can start grabbing a hold and getting a handle on your thing. And it's as simple as that. You can usually knock this process out in a day. After you've figured out what username you want, the basic setup of all these, even if you don't build anything, just getting the basic setup and hold of that username, you can usually knock out in a day. If you got somebody that knows what they're doing, they might knock it out in an hour or two. But get those accounts, get them set, and get hold of that username. If that's even just as far as you get for now, get a hold of them, and then from there, we'll start talking about building. Now, domain names. Let's move on to domain names. A domain name has more than one purpose. The most common, of course, is providing a name that you tell people to go to for your website. But the other one is to be a profile and a domain that you use for your email system. For example, we'll use First Church, right? So if I have firstchurch.com for the website, I can also work with Microsoft or G Suite or whatever email provider you use to say, hey, I want my email to be zach@firstchurch.com. It's that easy. You know what I mean? It's not that easy. There's work involved. But that's the whole point, is it gives that, again, back to the uniformity. Someone can look at your email address and go, hey, that's the address I need to go to find their website. And that, again, back to brand recognition, makes it so easy if your email and your website and your social media handles are all the same. The most ideal case is for your domain name to be the name of your ministry or nonprofit or business. Now, again, you may not always be able to do that, but this is most ideal case. But if you can't, try to look for an acronym or a shortened version or something that's close enough that it's still recognizable as your name. Least ideal case, but can work, if First Church isn't available, firstchurch.com or whatever it isn't available, maybe you can do firstchurch.online. The problem with when you get away with some of and we're going to talk about this in a second. The problem is, you want to try to get those main top level domains, but we'll get to that in a second. Next, if you find a domain you like, right? So let's say you decide, again, we're backing up here a little bit. Let's say you decide, okay, we're called First Church. Go online and just quick Google firstchurch.com. See if somebody else holds it. If they do, well, unfortunately, you're out of luck, and it's time to start either A, picking a different suffix, which we'll cover in a second, or B, find a different domain that you want to buy. Keep doing that until you find a domain name or that is available and that you like, and then hold on to that. And I mean, when I say hold on to that, your next step after you pick a domain name you like and you find it available, as in a .com, a .net, whatever, your next step needs to be, you need to go to sites like GoDaddy, Google Domains, I think Bluehost, a couple of them, domains.com, and you need to look up that name and see what suffixes are available. And we'll go into this a little bit in a little further detail here in a second, but we'll be going into detail on that more on another video. But see what one is available. Topquickversion.com is typically the most common top-level domain everybody grabs. It stands for commercial. .net is network. .org is organization. That is sometimes what I've seen a lot of nonprofits use. Now, just to be clear, these are a few of the top level. There are dozens, if not hundreds, of domain suffixes. So get creative, look on there, play around with them a little bit. Again, that's why I say go to one of these sites and just start playing around a little bit and find something you like. You might be able to find something where, like for example, I believe .church is a suffix you can buy, so you might be able to buy first.church, and that's your thing. It's first.church. So then you would have zach@first.church, and it wouldn't be a .com. .church replaces .com. So again, go to one of those sites like domains.com, Google Domains, Bluehost, GoDaddy, and there's more of them, and start playing around with domain names. Once you find one, buy it. Buy it, hold it. I don't care if you don't have a website ready. Buy it and hold it and don't let it go. Because at least now you've got control of that as well. And you've got control of that space as well. Again, for example, when you're thinking about it, look for things that are easy to say. Look for stuff that is the closest to what your organization is called. And again, if you can't get the name, get the acronym, just to cover that. And I forgot to mention one. On suffixes, .ngo and .ong. Those are specific for non-governmental organizations. I think those are, and again, those play into a little more of nonprofits, but again, just so you know, all these suffixes I've mentioned, there's no rule. You can have whatever you want. There's no rule. You don't have to be a nonprofit, I believe, to have a .org or a .net or a .com. You know, there are a few domains that have specific rules. Typically, those are .gov, .edu. I can't remember if .ngo is one of them, but I know there's a couple. But for the rest of them, for the most part, you can have whatever you want for a domain ending, just for domain suffix. Just find something you like. On search engine pages, this is a couple things to think about. You will have to set up an account tied to that provider. So, for example, if you're wanting to leave Google reviews, or if you're wanting to set up a Google My Business page, you will have to set up a Gmail account or a G Suite account. If you're wanting to set up a I think it's Bing My Business or Bing Business page, you will have to set up an Outlook and an email account that's either a .live, .outlook, .hotmail, or an Office 365. But it's really important to control those. And here's the gist overview of the process. It's, go to either one of those sites. Typically, you'll find it by going like Google Maps. If you can't find your business already on Google Maps or on, and again, for a lot of you who are starting out, you won't, then go through the process, look up the process for becoming part of those groups, walk through the verification process, get approved, and then you'll start building out the page. The big thing about that is, again, you don't have to do what I'm talking about right now is literally just getting a hold of what you need. You don't have to do any setup beyond these first couple pieces for right now. Just get control of your pages, just get control of your space online, and then build from there. And again, this is really good. If you haven't started your ministry, your nonprofit, or anything, then now's the time to do it before anybody knows you exist. So you're not competing with anybody, hopefully, for the domain name you like or for the username you like. I won't promise you won't compete with somebody. I'm just saying you have less of a chance if people already don't know about the brand and you're just building out. If you're already kind of a recognized brand, then almost I'd say for you, this needs to be more urgent. Take a minute. I don't care if you have to pause this podcast. Start doing a little research. Start figuring out what username you like, or even do it while you're listening to this. Start talking with your team and start putting that list together and get these controlled. Get your social medias controlled. Get your usernames for those social medias controlled. Make sure you have a domain controlled, things like that. The last piece I want to cover is company review portals. Reviews are extremely important. Do you know who your best marketing is? Your supporters and your employees and your volunteers. They make sure that you get out there because they're going to tell people about you. If they like what you do, they're going to tell people. And they can be either your biggest advocate, or if they don't like you, they can be your biggest, I can't think of the right word right now, but essentially they can cause you the most amount of pain in that area. A good name is far greater than riches. And that's something out of Proverbs. And we'll cover some more on this in another episode. But find review sites that are related to your nonprofit. For example, customers and supporters, you need to be controlling Google reviews, which is Google My Business, Yelp, Indeed, and other sites. Places where people can go and leave something about your page as somebody who's used your services for whatever they are. Even if you're a church and your services are literally just a house of worship, is how most people would see it. You still want to control that, because if people like your church, they may leave you a Google review about it. And what happens is people start noticing you more on Google, and then you start getting growth. Employees and volunteers, Indeed, Glassdoor, and Google reviews. Again, you want people that are working with you or for you, or are helping you in your stuff, to tell people, not just in person, but online as well. Have people that are volunteers, leave a review on Glassdoor, leave a review on Google reviews saying why they wanted to be a part of this organization. And of course, ask them, I take them in, just ask them, hey guys, can you tell people why you like to do this? Some people will, some people won't, but those reviews, I've talked to business owners and, ministry owners, those reviews are priceless. And those good reviews mean something, so take the time to focus on those. And the last one is third party. These are fun because you get zero control out of these. For example, Charity Navigator and Great Nonprofits are two websites I was able to find. And other than calling them, you won't really get to have a say. They review. It's kind of like a third-party audit. They just review you. They see what, they see what they can find about you, and then they tell people what they think about you. Now, there's always a chance for bias, and they may not like you for whatever reason. You can't control that, but the best thing you can do is put yourself in the best place and try to make sure that you've got your stuff well enough sorted out and keep yourself at a good, high ethical standard, so that way at least you've got things sorted out where if they've got pics about you, it's bias. But again, those are ones you can't affect. The first two, you can. You can ask people to leave you a review. You can ask people to tell us about you. But that one you can't. You are completely at, I don't want to say the mercy because, again, it's their opinion, but pretty much it's their opinion for those third-party ones. So, the big thing I really wanted to discuss with this one, and we'll kind of probably wrap it up here in a second. The big thing I wanted to discuss in today's podcast was that it's important to maintain that uniformity. It's important to maintain that oneness. Because, again, you want brand recognition, not just physically, but online, and you want to have people be able to easily find you, easily communicate with you, easily be able to find your how they can support you, or how they can get help from you, or find out what your services are, or maybe your products if you sell something. Whatever it is, you want that ease of access. People don't have a long patience span, and the internet has made it worse. You need to make sure you're taking time to control that and make it as easy as possible for people to find you. If nothing else, because you want people to find you. The whole point is you want people to find you. If you don't want anybody to find your ministry, ignore this entire podcast. Ignore everything I just said. If you want people to try to find you, you're wanting to help people find you, take some time, look over what we've talked about, go back and listen to it again, grab your team, start figuring out those usernames, start figuring out those domain names, start figuring out what sites and review portals you want to set up accounts with so people can start leaving you reviews, and just start getting that uniformity. My biggest point out of this whole thing is, just like in the last episode where I talked about how make a step, just start by making a step in a certain direction, this is the time. You don't have to set up all these accounts right now fully and have them all prettied up and everything, but at least have them under control. Have your Facebook business page with your username that you've decided on. Have your Twitter page with your username you decided on. Have your domain name with the domain name you decided on. Hopefully the same as the username, just with a domain suffix at the end of it, a .com, a .net, or whatever. Get those review portals set up so that way when you're ready, you can start asking people to leave reviews as they tell you about how your ministry or your nonprofit or your business has helped them. And just begin to start the base of that. Once you have those under control, they're under your control. Once you have those sites those usernames under your control, then they're under your control. And from there, you can start building that brand recognition and really start making it easy for people to just find you. That's the goal, is make it easy and simple for people to find you. So that's all I have for you guys today. Looking forward to seeing you guys next week for the next podcast. If you'd like to, so here's my little moment to show that as an example. If you'd like to keep up with us online, a couple easy ways. bitsandbibles.com, bitsandbiblespodcast.com, and on quite a few social medias, actually. Pretty much just go to Google and search for @bitsandbibles. You'll find us. Anyway, so I appreciate you guys joining us. If you want to give and support this, it is bio.link/bitsandbibles, or again, you can go to bitsandbibles.com and it'll get you there anyways. But yeah, guys, I appreciate you for joining me again. Looking forward to talking to you guys next week, and you guys have a great rest of your day.